Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of 247 DIY. I've got a pretty quick one here for you today, but I've finally gone ahead and jumped into figuring out exactly what was wrong with my 21-gallon Harbor Freight air compressor here, and then of course going ahead and fixing it. So stay tuned for that. All right, so first things first, let me just go ahead and explain exactly what we're going to be fixing on this. That way you can decide if this video is for you or not based on if you're trying to diagnose issues with your Harbor Freight air compressor. So basically what we're going to be doing is replacing the thermal cutout switch, which you can see here. We're also going to be adjusting and tuning the cutout limit on the air compressor. And as some bonus footage, I'm going to throw in at the end. It was something that I replaced that wasn't the problem on this air compressor. But if you're curious on how to do it, I did go ahead and replace the reed valves inside the head. So with all that said, let's go ahead and first jump into what actually this air compressor needed to get it fixed and running properly. So if you're not subscribed to the channel already, or if you missed the other video, a little while back I upgraded the shop to a much larger 60-gallon air compressor to have a full shop setup here for compressed air. And one of the bigger reasons why I decided to even go get a new air compressor in the first place is this one was giving me problems. And what it was doing is it would only fill to about 40 psi. It would sit there for a while, seeming like it didn't really want to do anything, and then it would trip the thermal cutout switch. So it was that symptom of kind of sitting there and not really filling, and subsequently feeling, at least to me, as though it was getting kind of excessively hot. I've never gone around and felt the air compressor prior to this, so it's possible that it just normally gets that hot. But it was that hesitation where it would sit there for a little bit and not fill that made me think that it was the reed valves inside the head here. I'll leave chapters down below if that's what you're checking this video out for, is a symptom like that and you're curious on how to check the valves. Like I said, I'm just going to throw that into some bonus footage at the end on how I went ahead and replaced those. But we did replace those and it didn't sort my problem out. Initially, I didn't think it was a problem with the thermal cutout switch. I just assumed that thermal cutout switch was actually doing its job. In the end, it did end up being a faulty thermal cutout switch. So let's get this cover off. I'll show you where that switch lives and I'll explain how we replaced it and then a couple of little issues after it was replaced that we had to sort out. All right, so that thermal cutout switch lives right here. It's pretty simple to undo. There's just a threaded washer here on the front as well as one on the back to space it out appropriately. I did notice when I was undoing this that not Harbor Freight but Central Pneumatic, they're the manufacturer of this, Harbor Freight just sells them, but they do add like a Loctite type thread locker on there, so they are a little annoying to get off, but you can just get in there with a pair of needle nose pliers and loosen those up. Once you get the outer one off, then it slides back this way. And if you can see on there, instead of using like your standard spade connectors on there, they use just a threaded screw connection that screws your wires on there. And kind of actually, as I'm speaking here, I realize that when I replaced this, I never paid attention to which wire is which, but it shouldn't matter. It's just a switch. If you think about it, it's just going to go in line and cut out as it thinks it reaches a thermal overload. So it really doesn't matter, but normally I do try to pay attention to that, and I'm just realizing now that I threw it back together without paying attention to it. But so as far as sourcing the new switch, I just went on Amazon. I wanted to get it quick, so I was utilizing the 2-day shipping there to make sure I got this quickly. I just compared the numbers on the side to make sure I was getting the right one. They are both 15 amps and both rated for 125 or 250 VAC. The only difference that I'm not versed well enough in electronics to know whether it was going to be an issue, so I just took a chance. The original one here has printed on it that it's a 77 series. The new one, I couldn't find one that said that it was a 77 series. This one says it's an L1 series. I just went ahead and took the gamble that they were both going to be the same based on the amperage and voltage, and it works just fine. So I don't know if that's just sort of an irrelevant number. Maybe it's like the size, because the new one I got is a little bit bigger than the one was in there, so that series might just refer to the actual physical size of it, I don't know. And then the only other thing I had to do, and I may change out, is if you can see on here, you can see those raised portions that they sort of, I'm assuming a machine just sort of presses that into the spade on there, and then that's threaded for those screws. So obviously that gives you quite a bit of thread engagement. The new one doesn't have those pressed raised portions there. So just to get this mocked up and know that it was gonna work, I just ran my tap. It was a number 8x32. I opened the hole up a little bit with a drill bit so that I could get the tap in there, and then I tapped that metal. It is pretty thin, so you really only have about a thread or a thread and a half of engagement, which is why I think I'm just going to cut these round terminal connectors off and then just run just a standard spade connector. But like I said, I just want to get this up and running and make sure that it was going to work, and I can confirm that it does. For whatever was causing that hesitation around 40 psi and then tripping the thermal, after replacing the thermal switch, it doesn't do that anymore. It jumped right up to 40 psi really quick and then continued to climb up. The only problem I ran into, and I don't know if it was from replacing this thermal switch or maybe it was from when I replaced the reed valves, because I had already done that first, or it was just simply a symptom of this has been sitting around for quite a while, is it wasn't automatically cutting off anymore. It went right past 90, which is where it came set from the store when I bought it. It says don't exceed 125 psi all over the compressor itself. So I sat and I waited, let it get all the way up to about 130 psi, and then I realized it just wasn't going to cut out on its own. So then we had to dive into addressing the pressure switch, which lives right here on the compressor. It's going to normally have this cover on it here. There's just a Phillips head screw on the front and then a clip on the back, and that comes off. Obviously, before you start adjusting and you're just disassembling this, you want to unplug everything, because these leads here, these are all hot leads right here. I did go ahead and have it plugged in while I was fine tuning it. You just have to be very conscious with your screwdriver. You're not getting into any of these areas. Again, these wires here are all hot, so you have to be careful of that if you're sort of fine tuning with it plugged in. The black screw here is strictly for your cutout, which is what I wanted, but I wasn't getting any result by adjusting this. So I kept track of how far I was moving, and I just put it back to where it was. And then your gold screw right down here, this is your cut in and your cut out. So this adjusts both when the compressor decides to turn back on and fill up, and then when to turn off when it feels as though it's reached your set limit and that the pressure is high enough. So really all I did was I just started adjusting this. I adjusted it pretty extreme at first, just to verify that I was gonna actually get a cutout, and I did. I think I did like 2, maybe 3 turns on it, and it was cutting out at about 70 psi. So then I just left it plugged in, and I just kind of fiddled with it and fine-tuned it, and eventually I got it back to that point of it cutting out at 90 psi, which again, like I said, that's where it was set from the store when I bought it. So that's just where I decided to go again and leave it at, was at 90 psi. And then I don't really remember exactly where the cut in was originally on it, but it looks like it was right about 35-ish psi. It cuts in and turns back on. So with the thermal switch replaced and the cut in and cut out dialed in, everything is working good now, which I'm super happy about. I didn't want to have to junk this compressor. I was really worried that it was actually like the piston or the cylinder head itself was worn out, and I tried my best online to see if they make a rebuild kit for this, and it just didn't look like there was one available. I suppose I could have pulled like the piston out if it came down to it and measured the piston, because it did seem like there was like generic rebuild kits out there, but you have to know exactly what size you need to determine what kit you need. And that was kind of something that's outside of my knowledge base a little bit, and I was really nervous that the head was junk, that the cylinder was junk. I really wanted to save this compressor, so I'm really happy that we got this sorted out. I'm probably just gonna put this up in the garage where I keep my daily and my wife keeps her daily. That way, if one of us gets a low pressure in one of our tires, we don't have to come down here to the bar and turn the big compressor on. We can just fill as needed up in the garage. So, and now, like I said, I'm just gonna throw in the bonus footage of how we went about replacing the reed valves, even though it wasn't the issue on this compressor. Then we need to disconnect this hard line right here. Then on top we have these 4 Allen bolts here. Then we can take the plate right off the top. And so this is the kit that I got on Amazon. Not really much of a kit, it's just exact replacements. You've got your head gasket in there and your 2 reed valves. Just want to be careful with these being taped down that you don't bend the gasket and don't bend your reed valves. So we'll just go ahead and dry fit our gasket on there. This is just a thin metal gasket. It's made of a soft metal, so when you bolt down that top cover on the head, it will create a seal. Your first reed valve is going to sit right in this depression right there. Then your other reed valve needs to sit in the depression on the head. But obviously if you were to go and place that back on there, it wants to fall out. So all you do is you add a little bit of grease to it. That's some brake caliper slide pin grease that I used. It really doesn't matter what type of grease, but it's just going to kind of act as a temporary glue and hold that up in there. If it doesn't stay, just add a little bit more like that. And then we can go ahead and place the cover right back down. Like so. Then we can put our Allen bolts right back in the top. We can connect our hard line back up. Throw our breather back on there. And so with all that, I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. Just trying to keep this one quick and just show you how I went about fixing up this compressor so that I didn't have to throw it away. As always, if you guys liked the video, feel free to leave a comment below. Be sure to hit that like button, and if you're not subscribed already, please consider subscribing. Thanks.